Okay, I just want to make sure that everything is live. We have moved off of TikTok for this show. So I just want to make sure that I am good wherever I am broadcasting right now. It seems like YouTube is fine. Okay. Facebook seems to be good too. Okay. Welcome everybody to the George Mokoena show. I'm making my return, my live return to Facebook to bring you this show. This, of course, is a show where it's more about what I've seen in the media, what I've seen in conversations, and things that I want to speak about. It is separate from the normal show. So the normal show is still 7 p.m. every day, Monday to Thursdays, on Fridays at 12:30, and we also do watch-alongs. So tonight, the show is not going to start at 7. It will be at 7:30 because Kaizer Chiefs is playing TS Galaxy in the league. And then we also do the watch-alongs, like I said, on the weekends as well of the big three: Sundowns, Sundowns, Pirates, and Kaizer Chiefs. Those are the big three that we cover, and we watch those matches, as well as Bafana, Banyana, Le Banyana Bastai, Leman. They were in the Champions League and we were watching them too. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Let's get straight into it now. Over the past few days, we've been having some interesting conversations. Last night on the show, we had a conversation about the player of the year, right? And this convo is not going to be about who should be chosen to be player of the year. It's going to be about the award itself. And the reason why I want to bring this up is that I want us to question ourselves as to how do we decide these awards, who should decide these awards, and can we trust ourselves in terms of the choices that we make for these awards, right? So I always start this by saying I want to acknowledge my own biases. My own biases are simple. Guys, I only watch about... Up to this point, I've only watched about, let's say, 50 to 60 games live on the platform with everybody. I only watch Kaizer Chiefs, I only watch Orlando Pirates, I only watch mamelodi Sundowns, right? Those are the teams that I watch. So 60 games out of a 480 game season is what I'm exposed to. So am I the right person, or are we, as people who only watch our teams, the right people to speak about these awards and to proclaim that somebody might be better than somebody else, or somebody is out and out the best player? You know, a big question that came up was one of, for example, Rowan Williams. Rowan Williams has done incredibly well this season. He's been so good this season across Africa for Bafana and in the league. Right? A lot of people have come out and said definitively that Rowan Williams is the guy. Rowan Williams is the player of the season, right? But what is that based on? And I ask this because it feels as though the player of the season can only go to players that are exposed properly, right? I watch Rowan Williams a lot. We speak about him a lot. We've all watched him together a lot. But the issue is, I know about Williams. I know how he plays out. I understand his play and how important he is to Sundowns. But is he the most important goalkeeper in the league, let's say, as a comparison? And how do we come to that conclusion? How do we get there and say that Rowan Williams and the way that he plays for mamelodi Sundowns is why he should be top, and that no other keeper's passing the ball, and no other keeper's doing this, and no other keeper's doing that, and he does so many different things? I can't even tell you what the other teams do. I can't tell you. I haven't watched enough of the games. Stellenbosch is sitting number 2 right now. Right? Nobody's speaking about Stellenbosch players, right? Nobody's speaking about the consistency of Stellenbosch midfielders. Reyna's the top goal scorer right now. Nobody's speaking about that. And is that one of the biases that we have when it comes to discussing things like player of the season? And maybe that's where the issue lies. I mean, when I look at it, again, another player who's up for it, Tito. And Pirates fans have made the argument for him. Tito is so important to our play. Tito is so important. He might not assist and give goals as much as other players, but if you look at the balls before the assist, he's usually the one. He's the guy who pulls up the people. He's the one who excites the fans. All of those things. And it's great. And it could be true, right? But does that mean that automatically Tito is now into the chat of player of the season, right? What about other players who may have the same influence, who may have the same characteristics that we look at? For example, Jayden Adams, I believe, has 6 assists and 3 or 4 goals. That's 10 in the league. They won the Carling knockout. Why isn't Jayden Adams looked at differently? Or does it come down to the narratives that we give to the bigger teams, right? Mamelodi Sundowns has won the league. We give them the benefit of the doubt that their players are that much better than everybody else. You look at Orlando Pirates. Orlando Pirates struggled sometime in the middle of the season. Now they're coming back to finish strong, right? The benefit of the doubt is given to those players that even when they were not playing well, they were there, right? Essentially, is this fair? And how do you make sure that maybe unfancied players that don't come from the big teams are also looked at? A big conversation that we had last night was around what I would have to do as a normal player from a smaller team in order for me to be included within these chats about player of the season. And a lot of people were saying that I need to be extraordinary. Why do I need to be extra in order for me to be counted in there? Or is it just because of the jersey that I wear? The other part that we spoke about is that a lot of Mamelodi Sundowns fans, for example, came on and said that Ronwen Williams makes critical saves. He doesn't save as much, but he makes critical saves. Therefore, he should be there, right? And I would argue, what is critical? If I'm in the relegation zone and I need to get out and my goalkeeper makes 2 or 3 saves, is that not critical? If I am vying for top 8 or vying for a CAF Conference spot or vying for a CAF Champions League spot and my keeper brings me out of those games, is that not critical? Is that not pressure? Is that not all of those things? How do we take one thing and put it above the other? The last thing I'm going to say before I give my solution to all of this, the last thing I'll say, I think for me, another thing we have to look at is the teams. Let's be honest. Playing for Mamelodi Sundowns, having Grant Kekana, having Obri Mudiba, having Kemankana Mapandish, having those players right in front of me who are experienced, who are well coached, who are expensive, who are internationals, who are a level above a lot of players within the league. That should count for something. People are pointing to clean sheets with Ronwen Williams, right? And is clean sheets a goalkeeper stat? What happens if I am a really good player in a team that is not so good? Do I get punished because my team's successes are not the same as the successes of a Mamelodi Sundowns? Are not the same successes as other people and their teams? Is it right to punish me for that? Is it right that I could have won 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players of the king men of the matches? Yet because I play for a specific team, nobody's going to know about it. Nobody's going to see it. Remember, guys, these things come into play. Ronwen Williams doing what he did at AFCON, whether we like it or not, is going to have an impact on this award. Ronwen Williams sitting next to Hugo Bruce, Ronwen Williams going into CAF Champions Leagues and saving penalties is going to come into the minds of people that are going to be voting for this award. Whether we like it or not, it's subjective. It's not based on criteria. You look at Abu Tito, for example. Are we making a noise about Tito if Tito is at Supersport? Are we making a noise about certain players? One of the examples that was brought up in the Overthinking Football WhatsApp group, if you want to join the WhatsApp group, go to YouTube, click on subscribe and join. One of the people that was brought up was Umabasa. Umabasa joined Pirates mid-season. Umabasa had been scoring at Morocco Swallows, I believe. He had, almost 7 goals out of 10 games, right? And he was cruising. I don't remember not one conversation about Umabasa. Now, Pirates didn't play very many games, comes in, starts scoring, And then we go, oh man, yeah, that player. These are the biases that exist. And maybe we're not going to be able to take them all away. Like I'm not sitting here saying that all of those biases will go away all of a sudden out of the blue, right? But what I am saying here is, can we be honest with our reflections of what we think of these awards? Some of these players play for incredible teams. And you can argue that playing for an incredible team is already hard enough. To be incredible, you have to be really good. But there's other players who don't get the shine, who don't get the limelight, who don't get anywhere. And this is to go for not just Sundowns, just the league in general. We know that if Kaizer Chiefs had a player that was performing right now, if Dupreez was sitting on 11 goals, 12 goals, it wouldn't matter what Kaizer Chiefs did during the season. He would be in the conversation, loud. For those that are going to jump in and say that it's tribal. And I'm not even saying that the players that are being mentioned should not be mentioned. That's not the point of this. The point of this is you have all the data, you have all of the information, you have all of the narratives, the storylines. You've consumed so much of these players, the handful of players that we watch every day. I can trust you when you say that Ronan Williams is a very good player. But can I trust that we are giving other players a chance, that we are actually comparing them, that they're actually coming into the conversations? Are we giving that opportunity for those players to also be part of these things? Or is it just a closed loop for the big players? And before I move on, I just want to make sure that I am running properly here. So that's my thing. And guys, again, it's not a Sundowns thing. I am asking a general question about how do we decide the player of the season? If we put all the data and everything together, Ronwen could very well be the best player. But how are we coming to that conclusion? How are we coming to that conclusion? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Now, if it were up to me, this is how I fix player of the season. I would take every metric that we have: dribbles, successful dribbles, passes, attempted passes, key passes, assists at the end of games, goals, assists that come in late, are taken, saves, penalty saves, every single metric that we can find, and put everybody on one database, even if you can imagine it like a spreadsheet. One spreadsheet with all of those data points, and you'd have all of the players down at the side. We'd decide how heavy each of those things are. Like, for example, a penalty maybe is more heavier than a normal save, for example. And what I would do is place everybody on there. And what that would show you at the end, if we could get a number from that would show you exactly who's performing. So if Ronwen Williams is the best keeper, and one of his best attributes is that he passes very well, he'll have the keeper stats to back him, and he'll have the stats about his passing. Right? Then at the end, I can look at it and say, this is the contribution. And it won't hurt anybody else, because on the same token, Mfukeng dribbles a lot. Ronwen will never have those stats. So that's Mfukeng's strengths. And if we put them all in one basis, and we take all of those things into account, I'm sure we'll see the cream of the league, but also the players that are hiding in plain sight. The players that we don't see. The players that we don't watch, you know, at 5 o'clock, at 5:30, the game before Sundowns plays at 8. At 3 o'clock before Chiefs plays at 5:30. Those games and those players, I think that would give us a more accurate reflection. And it doesn't come down to just being about our thoughts about things, our biases. I'm biased. I'm telling you right now. I've picked Ronwen Williams as the player of the season. But then I thought to myself, I've picked him, but why did I pick him? How do I back it up? Who am I comparing him to? Have I been fair to everybody else? That is the question that I am asking right now. But anyway, guys, let's move on to the next. Let's move on to the next topic. The next topic, of course, has to do with Ungezana to a degree. But then it's going to be a bigger conversation that's going to go into the third topic. For those who don't know, Ungezana is playing in Romania. He has just won the league in Romania and is widely touted as one of the best players in that league. FCSB, the team that he's playing for, formerly known as Steaua Bucharest, they went through a similar drought to what Kaizer Chiefs was going through. They brought him over when he was unwanted from Kaizer Chiefs. They signed him over there. People were calling him a home. They were calling him in Komo, hey, this one, that one, that one. Man got that side and he performed. And I guess the question that I want to ask in this section is, when we look at it, are the players the problem? If you were to listen to any social media conversations that happen, let's say about the Kaizer Chiefs right now, everybody's saying that these players are not Chiefs quality. Yeah, these players are not good enough. These players are this, these players are that, these players are this. We have so many things that we say about these players. Yet when they leave, they go and they become big players where they go. Gezana is one of the best defenders, touted to be going to France. Well, he had been scouted by a French team. His valuation is going to skyrocket. We have guys like Abunjabulo Plom who've left Kaizer Chiefs in the midst of a drought and gone that side to America. He's one of the most loved players there at St. Louis City, where he plays in America. The Bradley Cornell coach team. So is it the players? I want to speak on the fact that every season as fans, we ask for this one and we want that one, and that player's better than that one, and if this one can land at Kaizer Chiefs, we will win the trophies, and if this one can go there, if this one, yes, we speak so much. Yet we fail to understand that inside the club, why am I signing players? Where am I expecting those players to play? Why did I get them? Do I have a plan for them? We've got a long list of really great players before they got to Kaizer Chiefs. Even currently, Abunjabulo Ngobo, who were players of defenders of the season at some point, right before he got to Kaizer Chiefs. We have Abo Modi, who are very dangerous at Golden Arrows, if I'm not mistaken. Abo Potsane at Royal AM. We have Abo Msimango, who are Bafana players, captain of TS Galaxy. We have Abo Mtetwa, who are the cornerstones of what Stellenbosch was doing. All of these players that all of a sudden are no longer up to our standard. How? 9 years young is not a trophy, but our standard is so high. So I started looking at it and thinking to myself, what is causing this to happen? What causes a player to arrive at a club and not work out? And for me, it really comes down to why? What do you guys want to do with these players? What do you guys want to play with these players? Did you do your adequate research when looking for this guy? Gutino is going to fit in here and fit in there, and we're going to do this and do that and do that with him. Do we even know what we're going to play or what our style is? For us to be having such high expectations of these players. You know, I have a video on YouTube. You're welcome to go watch it. I have a video on YouTube where the technical director of Mamelodi Sundowns, Fleming, he speaks about how they sign players. And he made the example of Marcelo Allende, how they got Allende. He says that they went to, there's an app called Transfer Room. It's used by a lot of the big teams around the world. And every year they have like a symposium where they bring everybody in, and executives from all types of teams, for Mamelodi Sundowns, for Pirates, for Real Madrid, they all come and they sit in this place. Then they have a thing that they do where it's, they call it, it's almost like a 15-minute speed dating, where each of the executives sit with each other. They tell each other what we want, what they want. They tell each other where they're lacking. They give each other ideas about how they do their transfers, which players to look at. And he says that it was in one of those sessions where we were speaking to one of the guys, and he said, Look, at Mamelodi Sundowns, we're looking for this player, this player, this player. Or we're looking for somebody who can do this and this and this and this. And this guy was like, no, I know a guy. He's not from my club, but he's from a separate team. Look into this. I'll give you the name. I'll put you in contact. It took 2 weeks from that conversation to Allender walking in at Sundowns. 2 weeks. Why I bring up that story is it shows that at Mamelodi Sundowns, they know what they want and they know what they need to do. So you can never walk around as a Sundowns coach, technical director, and not know sishota kuphi, sifuna ubani or sifuna, what type of player do we want to come in? What attributes do we want? Do we want somebody that dribbles a lot? Do we want somebody who passes? How many passes that you need to have? There's so many metrics that you need to have. Not only that, but also the decision inside the club is filtered through a lot of different places. Fleming himself, an outsider coming from Europe, he can come in with a point of view. You have Abo Rulani, who have been in the club but are fairly young. He can have a point of view. You have Abo Trotmuloto, who are also sitting there. They also have an input on these things. That's another point of view. By the time the player signs, siyazi ukuthi sifunani. Manje Kaizer Chiefs, I think the issue is that we sign by name and we sign by popularity instead of signing by what we need to do. We've all known that we need a 6 that can take the ball, turn around and play the ball. Sletum Tetwa, we ask him to be pretty much a centre back. We know that we've been asking for maybe another striker who can come in and do the job for us. Instead of looking and saying, do we want another Dupreez? Do we want another this or that? We go and fetch Abuchivavire. Fire sale, Yamarumo Kalans. Do we even know what is going to be the expectations of these players when they get here? Because for me, it feels like Chiefs management is hiding behind fans and saying that you guys are the issue. You guys are the problem. We gave you guys everybody that you wanted. Is it really about giving us what we want? Can you really trust fans to make those decisions? Back to the conversation I was having in the first part of this. I do not watch enough football. I have a footballing platform. I do not watch enough football for me to be able to go into Kaizer Chiefs and make transfer decisions. How many games of Stellenbosch did you watch when we decided that Umthetho was the one that we want? And not to say he's a bad player, but how many games of Stellenbosch did we watch? How did the rumors start? So now they want us to take the blame for those type of things, whereas they as a club should be sitting down and making sure that the moves that they make are the right ones. Guys, I don't know about you, but I've been a Kaizer Chiefs fan for a very long time. Very long time. My whole life, in fact. Very rarely do I remember a game-changing signing coming in at Kaizer Chiefs that we knew about. I'll give you an example. How many people knew about Mbesuma before he landed at Kaizer Chiefs? How many of us knew about Nengomasha? Like, truthfully, how many of the coaches who were brought in, did we know them before? So why is it that now that we're losing Begatina? And to end off this segment, all I really want to say is, guys, Gezana is proof that the club, the players are not the problem. To prove that you can sign anyone that you want to sign. To prove that us, as people who watch the teams, would much rather lay the blame at the feet of some of these players instead of really interrogating. Why are they here? You know, FCSB looked at South Africa and said, we could come here and look for names. If they were looking for names, Bo Ime Okon would be gone, Bo Bodlela, Bo Koki, Bo Msimango. But they were like, we need a specific type of defender. And they fetched him because they understood exactly what they wanted to do. Now assess the team. Look at some of the players. Does Chivavairo really fit in with Dupreez? Does Chivavairo really fit in with Castillo? Does Castillo fit in with Mart? Does Mart fit with Stebe? Does the defense fit in with this one? When they're playing the ball and Chivavairo's sitting on the bench but they're crossing to Dupreez, what is the plan? And why did you bring all these players in if you're not even going to play to their strengths? Now Dupreez is a winger at some point. Last match in Bonuhepi Mashiane was playing number 10 instead of being a left back, even though Mart was playing right back. He's not a right back. Your normal right back is playing left back. You bring on a left back, but you don't take him to left back and use the makeshift left back to his position on the right. There's so many things that happen. And then jiggy, we're going to say the players have failed. We're going to say the players have failed. It's not quality. No player is coming to save Kaizer Chiefs. 1. 2, those players are not as bad as we make them out to be. That squad is not the 8th best squad in the league. It's not number 16. There's plenty of clubs who would kill to have some of the players that we have in that squad. Yet we are sitting here saying quality. What are you basing this quality question on? There were quality elsewhere. Dupreez was dangerous elsewhere. There's a reason why Chiefs wanted him. There's a reason why we wanted all these players. All of them die for years and years and years and years. Think about your billiards, your manyamas. Think about all of the players that have come into the club in the last 10 years, 10, 15, 20 years. I can even go back 20 years. But anyway, guys, let's move on to the last one. Well, the second last topic. The second last topic for today is about team philosophy. Everybody knows that Kaizer Chiefs is looking for a coach. Everybody knows that we are searching for hopefully a savior who's going to come in and take Chiefs from where they are and move it forward. I don't want to speak too much about the candidates and who's there. There have been names that have been spoken about and all of that stuff. I want to speak about something that links to literally what I just spoke about. Who decides the philosophy at a club? I've been having so many conversations with fans and people that come onto my show. So many conversations about the philosophy of a club. And I hear the same thing from a lot of people. People come in and they say that, a coach must be the one that comes in and dictates what the philosophy of the club should be. A coach must come in and make signings. A coach must come in and restructure the club. A coach. And I have a fundamental problem with this way of thinking, because by virtue of the job, a coach is not a long-term decision-making position. Or it shouldn't be. It's not somewhere that by default you'll be given 8 years in order to get things right. A coach usually has to earn their way. And if you allow an outside voice to dictate what your club does, that means that when that voice leaves, you're going to have to find another voice. And in most cases, a lot of teams don't learn a lesson when they bring those coaches in. They go out and they go find another voice who's different, and another voice who's different to that one, and another voice who's different to that one. And you end up having confusion. You end up having people that don't understand what we're meant to do. You end up having players on contracts that were meant to be, that were signed because this coach plays like this. Now there's a new coach who's come in. I can't play those players because they don't fit exactly what the new coach wants to do. The new coach doesn't want to play with your old players because he's trying to stamp his authority on the club. It creates so many issues. And for me, I always say the philosophy, the direction of the club needs to come from within the club. I mentioned the technical director from Sundowns. I mentioned the overall ethos of Sundowns where they say Shushan and piano, for example. Great. We've got the philosophy. Now it's easier to go and get the people. But the problem is that at Kaizer Chiefs, for example, the problem is that we don't know what our philosophy is meant to be. We don't know what we want to do. Right now, Kevin Johnson has passed through. He's going to go back to his position. Motaung was there. Zwane was there. We had Baxter at some moment. We had Gavin Hunt at some moment. Fundamentally, those coaches all do different things. But if you as a team sit down and decide on what you want to do, so for example, I want to play tiki-taka. We sit down at a general meeting or AGM or whatever, or in our boardroom, and we say, okay guys, we've seen that over the past 9 years, we've messed up 1, 2, and 3. We've been trophyless. We've been going with the wind. Let's sit down and say what we want to do. In the next 5 years, what do we want to win? When we sit here, what type of football do we want to play? Do we want to play helicopter? Do we want to play tiki-taka? Do we want to play any of those things? Once you've decided your philosophy, it makes everything else easier. Let me explain. I've chosen tiki-taka. That means that the type of coaches, the type of executives, the type of managers, the type of people that I'm going to look for are going to be people that are experienced in tiki-taka. That means instead of going out into the market and closing my eyes and just pointing at whoever, now I know exactly good to, oh, now coach, or now babo coach by 3, 4, 5 that play the football that I want to play. Then I can take those guys and say, oh, from the 5 of them, let's drill down and see, okay, what are the finer details of what they do? How's your man management? How's this, how's this, how's this? I have just narrowed the whole field. Guys, Kaizer Chiefs is searching for coaches in Brazil. Kaizer Chiefs is searching for coaches in Spain who have completely different styles. And you know what's also nice about the philosophy? I can now take that philosophy and put it through my whole club. My development plays tiki-taka. So that means that when my players come from tiki-taka, they go into the first team that plays tiki-taka. Therefore, the change is not so big. My staff play tiki-taka. That means that from my development coach all the way through, it's guys that have similar understanding of the philosophy. And like they could all sit together. You look at Stellenbosch FC. Stellenbosch FC has Steve Barker as head coach. What people don't realize is that there's a guy sitting next to him. He's assistant coach, Wesley. Wesley has been with him ever since his Tuks days. Then sitting next to him, first team, sitting next to him on that bench, next to Wesley is Evangelos. I'm forgetting his full name, but Evangelos also came from Tuks with him. Now, let me show you something. That means that Stellenbosch head coach, down to the assistant, down to the staff, down to development, are like this. So that philosophy goes all the way through. When people say, your Stellenbosch is always finding these players, they're finding them because there's an understanding that goes all the way through the club as to what we are, what we do, how we play, what we want. Tell me, at Kaizer Chiefs, what is the style of DDC? And how does the DDC team relate to the first team? You know, the European teams, the English teams, they change everything. When Man City was courting Pep and they signed him, They literally went, we are going to change our entire style of play. Everything about our style of play, we're going to change it. They hired Chiki Bergistan, who was the former, who was the former TD at Barcelona. He was TD when Pep was there. They hired academy bosses, academy people that come from that Barcelona way. Because then you have a harmonious club. And even when Pep leaves, you know, okay, this is the line that we're going with. Do you know what else it helps with? You know what else it helps with? You can blind sign. So you see how Chiefs does where they sign players before the coach gets there. I don't think it's an issue if you are signing towards a philosophy or a style. That means that more than likely the coach that comes in will fit what you guys want to do. So even if that player might not be the one he was looking at, he can't cry and say the attributes of that player doesn't fit. But now everything is wishy-washy. Everyone is changing every day. Namhlanje siyalcrossa, tomorrow silibeka phansi, the next day we're playing transition, the following day low block. What does that do for a long-term, the long-term survival of a club? So to go back to the point, the club must decide on the philosophy. Plenty of the people within the club have long-term contracts. When you look at Kaizer Chiefs, some of them have lifetime contracts. Coaches will come and go, players will come and go, but who is being entrusted with the future of the club? And are they being fair with the future of the club? Do they know what the future of the club looks like? Do they know what they want to do? I admire Sundowns so much because we all understand the Shusha and piano. I admire Orlando Pirates so much because we all understand how they play. Fast transitions, wingers that aren't necessarily wingers that cut inside. You can draw a line from Mfukeng to Lodge to Abopule. You can draw a line and you can look at the players and say, oh, that's a Pirates player. That's how Pirates plays. This is a guy that fits in. There's a line. And that's why our Pirates are bringing in random coaches. We assume they're random, but they fit exactly to what Pirates want. So when Pirates goes to Spain or Finland to go fetch Jose, they understand that we want a coach that plays like 1, 2, 3, and 4, so that we don't go too far from Orlando Pirates. What is Chiefs' style of play? But anyway, the decision should come from above. The decision should come from the ownership group. It shouldn't be coming from the coach. Okay, so lastly, to finish off the show, Coach Rulani has been in the news making remarks. He had made a remark about the refs. For example, Jelly Chabani speaking about who's he talking to, asking questions about decisions. He has been in the media for words that he said recently about TS Galaxy, where he spoke about how someone told him that Sid Ramovic told the players that they must go and break somebody's leg or be hard on certain players. And I don't want to speak too much about the words. I want to speak a lot about the action. You know, for those who haven't watched me before, a lot of my conversations this season have been about coaches in relation to the media. The last one that I did of these, you can watch it on YouTube. The last one that I did of these, I spoke about how referees don't get a chance to defend themselves. Coaches get a chance to say whatever they want to say, and they get to get away with it. They get to come out and make all of the claims they want to make, and talk about this one and that one. Especially nowadays, our coaches are speaking so much more. The example that I always use was Hugo Bruce. That Hugo Bruce, his mouth gets him into trouble so many times because he feels as though he can say whatever he wants to say with impunity. He can say whatever he wants to say without having to worry about anything happening to him, and then it becomes an issue. And it brings me back to communication within the league. I think these press conferences should be restricted. Or at the very least, I think that our coaches should be PR trained. Our coaches should know how to deal with media. We know about South African football media. South African football media is looking for the headline. They're looking for the headline. Rulani says this about this. Hugo Bruce says Rulani is he's making himself the special one, Jose Mourinho. And all too often, these coaches come out, whether calculated or not, and they say the wildest things without worrying about the effects of the words that they say. I use the example, I'll use two examples. Number one, Hugo Bruce came in and he said that Unjabulo Plom faked an injury. Or that Unjabulo Plom said he was injured, but we couldn't get a hold of him. Yada, 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 yada. We know how that story turned out. That one press conference, now Jabulo Plom has to wake up in the morning and deal with the media and has to decide whether I'm going to attack or I'm going to defend. Am I going to be humble in this moment when I'm being questioned, or am I going to keep quiet? And that spirals. Hugo Bruce came out and he spoke about Kaizer Chiefs. And he said that Kaizer Chiefs is still the Kaizer Chiefs of last season. They're not good, blah, 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 blah. Following 2 days or following week, Unseki had to sit in a press conference where he has all of his own problems and had to be grilled about what Hugo Bruce said. And now in that moment, he has to choose whether to be gracious, whether to be humble, or whether to attack. And that back and forth, we all know how that one panned out. Abu Pulemodi all of a sudden got put into the team and then taken out. He seemed to go back on his word. But look at all the trouble that was caused. Forget about coach to coach. Coach Rulani comes out and says what Jelly Chabani did was wrong. Or you don't do these things, right? Now, what happens the next game when fans go to that thing? There hasn't been an apology. There hasn't been a correction. There hasn't been a thing to say that, hey, guys, we reviewed it and actually. And it's funny because Rulani is usually the type of coach to go, I have not seen it. But I'm just using him to highlight that some of these press conferences, man, some of these press conferences, our coaches are not at the level to play the type of mind games that they want to play, if we're being honest, in terms of media. And once they spin a story, the story is spun, guys. They need to work on their communication. These things go out to millions of people who may not see your follow-up video, who may not see your follow-up statement that you release. Now he says, TS Galaxy, who coach told them to go kick somebody, and I don't even know about true or false, but that's the only story we have. TS Galaxy is coming out and threatening legal action, for example. But I think the damage is done. What happens next time when TS Galaxy goes to go play Mamelodi Sundowns? How do referees handle it? How do the fans handle it? Can it get violent? Can all of these things spiral out of control from these loose comments that are made by our coaches in passing? And it's part of a bigger thing that I feel like in SA, we don't understand narrative. We don't understand public relations. We don't understand how to deal media-wise with things, you know. Everybody just wants the limelight. Everybody just wants to say what they feel and just come out and say it without wondering what's going to happen later on. And these things have repercussions. These things have big and small repercussions. I remember Hugo Bruce saying that, Rulani coming out and saying that, you know, there's players that came back injured, and Bruce talking about how some players are not available. I don't know. And I'm like, a lot of these things could be sorted out behind closed doors, and you don't have to activate fans in a different way. The Bafana example is prime. Bafana was doing so many good things. But we were focused on the fights with Rulani and the fights with Mamelodi Sundowns, and Mamelodi Sundowns fans are coming out and saying, no, if you don't want the players to be there, don't call them. This one is doing this one is doing that. We're focused on Kaizer Chiefs, the team that had no right to have any conversations about the national team. Now they're in the national team conversation. It's blowing up, it's trending. People hate Bruce. You can control so much. And I urge those people that are tasked with sitting with these coaches when they're speaking, the guys that are meant to control the questions and control what's going on, please do a better job. Do a better job of stopping malicious questions, because I think our football is being played by these things, and our coaches are playing right into the hands of a lot of our media, misquoting them and all of that stuff. But anyway, guys, I just wanted to end on that short note to just say our coaches need to speak a lot better when they're outside. They need to realize the positions they hold. Some of the coaches literally hold millions of people's perceptions within their hands, millions of people's thoughts within their hands. You know, when the Springboks came back from France, I spoke to a journalist that I know, and he said, you know, the one thing about the Springboks is that you are protected. You'll only hear the coach speak, or not the coach, or director of football, director of rugby. You only speak, you hear Rassi speak, you only hear Sia speak. When those players were there, they were restricted from speaking to media like that, getting recorded, being on camera, because they understood that narrative is important. A lot of things distract from things. Bernard Parker made an incredible recovery. It doesn't matter. Bafana has been playing well for a good 2 years. It doesn't matter, because we allow these side things that are said to take the spotlight and to take the narrative. Our coaches need to do better. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Please, if you have not followed, if you have not subscribed, please follow and subscribe. Please support. I have a video out right now on YouTube that speaks about financial fair play and why financial fair play will not stop Sundowns. It's not going to stop. In fact, it will help mamelodi Sundowns if financial rules are brought into the league. So if you want to watch more of that, and I can tell you a little bit more in depth, I have a video up on YouTube. I drop content almost every single day. I do have a live show where you guys can engage with me. That is Mondays to Thursdays at 7 p.m. And you engage via TikTok, so you have to be following me on TikTok, join me on TikTok while I'm live. Then you can jump in and call into the show, and you can have a discussion with me. This one is more of just catching up with some of the things that have been said in the media. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you then tonight, 7:30 on TikTok and YouTube for a watch along of Kaizer Chiefs versus TS Galaxy. So join me, we'll watch the game together and we'll talk about it, what we see. Guys, it's been amazing. Bye, guys.